Hey, my name is Lo, and I'm ready to go. I got my girl Wynn too, and we're waiting for you two friends sharing God's words in our lives. The ups, the downs, the stripes, the thrives. Be sure to listen in, and you'll soon see that we're quirky and we're awkward, and we love coffee. So grab a mug, some snacks, and some tissues as we dig in and explore our issues on Watch the Podcast. Watch the Podcast. Watch the Podcast. Watch the Podcast.
I'm hitting record. This is hilarious. All right.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Hey guys, I'm Lauren.
I'm Wynn.
And we are Watch the Podcast.
We're two women. We have had some interesting stories and different backgrounds, but somehow we've been brought together.
And now we're here. Our main goal is just to bring you guys into our lives, as crazy and awkward as we are, and potentially share some topics and give you guys our perspectives on life and how we've managed to become besties and thrive off of each other's energy and the things that God's doing in our lives.
And it's a work in progress for sure. Because man, is it hard to be your friend.
Did you just diss me? Wow. So anyways, as you see, the ups and downs are there. But I guess you may be wondering, like, why should you tune in and what makes this podcast different than some other ones that are already out there? So our main premise is ultimately to share our crazy life stories.
Mm-hmm.
Wynn and I have been friends for over 11 years now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Something like that.
Circa Starbucks in the house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we've been able to weather a bunch of storms, trials, tribulations, and a lot of success and happy events and life changes. And we think that as 30-somethings, that will, you know, give you guys the confidence and motivation to kind of live your best life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, life has been crazy and continues to be crazy, but I wouldn't say that we have figured it out. We're figuring it out. So if you're interested in hearing our journey, but staying along for the journey, it's going to be a blast.
With that being said, we're gonna I guess get a little deep and kind of give you our backstory, how we met, and where we're going. So Wynn does a great job at telling this story. I actually don't remember it. But this is her favorite story in the whole wide world. So go for it.
Yeah, once upon a time. Just kidding. We both attended Georgia Southern University. Shout out to Statesboro, Georgia. All right. I think we still have family and friends still living there. And I had just moved to the area. I think I was like halfway through my first semester there. I'd lived in Florida, had a baby at 19, no big deal. And I moved back home where all my family lives. And I started my first semester at Georgia Southern, working on my bachelor's. I did 2 years in Florida, had a baby. Now I am near home. And I got a job at Starbucks. And I remember I interviewed with Michael Murphy. And it was real awkward. But guess what? Somehow I got hired. And I was working part-time because I was super broke and in school and raising a child. And my first few days, like, I had no idea what I was doing. But I would say, Lauren, you were nice back then. And you were, I don't know, you're probably like one of the first people that talked to me working there.
I've always been a Starbucks beast. What can I say?
Well, okay, yep. That's exactly what happened. And I would say probably I think you and I were just talking, like, just about life. Like, I found out you were married. You know what? I wasn't married. I just had a child. Maybe I was married. I don't remember.
You were not married.
I was not married. I got married later on. That was real dumb. We'll talk about that another time. And, I don't know. We just had a lot in common, and like we had like the same skin color, and we just
the same skin color. When?
Yeah. Wait a minute. Is this where you tell me you're not white? Oh my gosh!
Wow.
All right, you know what?
I think just because you think that Justin Timberlake and Timbaland are heavily related does not mean that that's the same for us, sis. Sorry.
Wow. All right. Well, I feel like my story is changing as we go through this journey, but one of our first days at Starbucks, working together like for a while, for a few hours, it snowed. And so I know you always get mad at me because I'm always sharing this one picture I have of me, you, and what was her name? Remember the girl?
Araba.
No, it's not Araba.
Oh, Lorin.
Oh yeah, the other Lorin, like the normal Lorin spelled
Right.
name. And yeah, it snowed. We took like a picture together because it never snows where we lived. And I remember I felt so cool that I found a friend like you. And that day, you might not remember this, but I sure do because I remember these things.
Please don't cry. Please don't cry.
You went on your Facebook page and in your like description or about me, you added a quote that I said because you had quotes of funny things that people say, something stupid like that. Yeah, you did.
Oh my God, I'm going to bring it up. Let me see if I can find it.
And you said something like, I'm so white, I glow. And I was talking about my skin. And you just thought that was the most hysterical thing. And then I saw it on your page and you added me as your friend. And I'm like, wow, this girl thinks I'm so funny. She added a quote of me on her page. I don't even really know her yet.
So this is how I got stuck with you. Okay, it all makes sense now.
And then, yeah, the rest is history. We just started talking. We laughed a lot. We caused a lot of craziness. Some revolting. I remember some people had gotten like promotions that at least I was kind of a jerk about. And yeah, we were just a bunch of white shirts. That was in Starbucks. If you were a lower level employee, you wore a white shirt back then. And that's what we did. And smelled like coffee like all the time.
Yeah, and I think Wynn helped me get through some of the toughest years of my life down in Statesboro, and I got to see her son Jude grow up, and he's now my favorite little being, and he's what, 10 now?
He's 11, and you also have two
11.
more other beings that you love and adore.
Not as much as Jude.
Jude is very special.
Jude is very, very, very special. Yeah, so that's kind of our intro story. Needless to say, I somehow have managed to get Wynn to stick around in, all of the crazies. And so here we are. And so I think, I'm pretty sure you're like, wow, guys, like that's kind of real surface level or whatever. But I think it's very interesting how you can meet a complete stranger and just very quickly connect with them and resonate with their personal being. And then, just even through the craziness and the growth and the change, it's like, do I still want, like, why are you talking to me? You're annoying. Like, leave me alone. But we're still here. And yeah, that's who we are. I think I lost Wynn for a little bit, but we'll see what happens. Should probably click something.
Lorin's probably so
welcome
pissed
back,
right now.
Wynn. Thanks for joining us.
Computer just died.
No, this is wow. As you'll see, I am very much the, well put together one.
Oh, really? Let's talk about what happened before this podcast. What died?
What happened?
I feel like something way more important than a computer. Your car died. And why did the car battery die? Probably because you left the light on, you idiot. So let's just start with that.
Nobody asked you to bring that up today.
All right. Back to history?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think, so I think next week what we'll talk about is kind of some of the big life changes that we've kind of gone through together and why we have such a transparent and honest friendship. Yeah, but I guess so let's tell them kind of what we're doing now. So we both went to Georgia Southern together, and I moved to Atlanta and finished up my degree at the Georgia Institute of Technology. out here kicking it. Took me forever, but we'll talk about that later. And so now I live in California, up in Sacramento, and I was working in manufacturing, and I just recently left that job, and I'm going to be out here pursuing flying and some other cool stuff. Yeah, Wynn, what do you do?
So I actually just started a new job last week. And there's many stories in between that, but after I graduated Georgia Southern, I moved shortly after to Florida, and I've been in healthcare and tourism, and more recently working in local government. And then I've just had some major life changes again, and I took a little bit of break in October till up until last week, and I'm now working for a law practice firm. And I can tell you I don't know what I'm doing and I haven't grown up yet and I'm just figuring out. So I think there's going to be some juicy details that we'll learn, that's things that have happened, and then really what's kind of going in my life today, because I'm still figuring it out at 30, well, really 31 soon and closely approaching. So yeah, more to come. I also have my MBA. I got my MBA. I've been a single mom somewhere in between that. There's going to be some really juicy stories. Many stories have been written, but I'm now writing a new one. Maybe it's a chapter book. Maybe it's not a story. They might be personal stories. There's like a horror story, a drama story, love story. Yeah, they're probably all different.
Yeah,
different
and
books, all
so
different
what
stories.
we're going to do is we're going to kind of just spend some time. We kind of talk weekly. When's in Florida, so we'll randomly send each other text messages or phone calls. And so I figured, we thought this would be a great opportunity for us to kind of share some of those conversations because we think we're funny. And so we'll kind of laugh at our past and the things we're going through now. We're also working on figuring out life and growing up. I don't think that I was taught that. And now being an adult and having to cultivate relationships and work in different fields and meet people and just figure out life. I don't think that I was given a blueprint. I think everything, and I think the same is true for Wynn. We've just been figuring it out on our own. And so there's a lot of trauma and fears and lies that we've been wrestling with in our adulthood that we like to give our input and insight on, and hopefully it can help you. And then also, we've been through a lot. We've seen some things, and so we want to help and motivate and encourage you guys and bring some of our kooky friends on and some folks that we've met in industry or just in our personal lives that we think their story could better influence a greater population of folks. So that's kind of what we're going to be out here doing, just being crazy and hopefully providing you guys a space where you can come and listen and feel good and, have something to encourage you for your week or for the rest of your day.
Absolutely. It's definitely a safe space here. Don't be fooled sometimes if you see like a nice photo or something, we're doing something on social media that's exciting and amazing. I think sometimes too people initially think like, oh my gosh, they have it together, because we're normally pretty calm, cool, and collective, but we're like a hot mess. And I think that's what this podcast is really here to expose, is that I think we're kind of all doing life together. I think that's like a great way to put it. And I think at the end of the day, we want everybody just to feel good about the life that they had. And I would say probably you and I haven't always felt that way, but if there's anyone that we can catch right now to start that journey of just like not just doing their best, but living their best, then I think that's like the beauty of this podcast, is that it will, maybe, I don't know, maybe this will organically happen or transform or spark someone's interest, or just laugh and just be like, wow, these girls are a hot mess and I'm better than them. It might make you feel better about yourself.
Hopefully it does.
That could be it too. That could be it too. Yes.
So we didn't talk about, let's talk about why, right? Why this podcast? Why is it called Watch? Where do we get it from?
Yeah, I was the creative mastermind behind it.
Were you? Okay.
Just kidding. You know what? It's kind of like Lauren might not know this because she hasn't actually named a child yet, which is fine. But it's funny how when you do name a child, that it's like when it's right, you're like, oh yeah. Like no matter how many names you went through before. Again, I don't know how many names we talked about before this. I don't remember it being that many, but I remember it started with I said something stupid, which was a terrible name, and then it grew to
Usually
something
how
else
things
you
happen.
said, right? And then I put an acronym together of watch, and I'm like, I like the name watch, and then we're like, watch the podcast, and then somehow it developed to watch the podcast, but there's meaning behind what watch is. And so, Lauren, why don't you spell that out for us?
Yeah, so WATCH stands for what are the chances? And so our we were having a conversation one day. I think I was going through it or something, and or maybe Wynn likes to cry, and so
Yeah, there's a lot of crying. Yeah.
I try to tune that out. But we just had a conversation one day, and we were talking about wow, like God really does move in mysterious ways, and what really are the chances in life that the two of us would become friends? We're from completely different states, completely different backgrounds. We look nothing alike, although Wynn swears that we're
Exactly
twin
alike.
sisters.
Exactly.
Wynn's had kids. I've made some dumb mistakes on dating and moving and just picking stuff. It's been crazy, but we're still out here thriving and figuring out how to be decent role models and parents and um, functioning individuals in the world. And it's just like wow, like what are the chances? And the chances are slim to none, but we're out here beating those odds. And so that's kind of how we came up with the title.
I'd even add to that, and again, we talked about many different things in that moment of coming up with a name, but there is something beautiful in chances. So, like, I would say that you and I both believe in God. We're going to talk about Jesus sometimes on the podcast. We might even pray on this podcast. I don't know. So if you're offended by anything that I just said, like probably just go ahead and turn it off because that's probably no, it's not even probably. It is the center of why that we're doing what we're doing. And when we think about God and the chances that he gives us, it's not the first chance, the second chance. There's not a third. I mean, it's like God's math like doesn't I don't know, it doesn't make sense to us. It always blows our mind. And so there's a chance in the chances that we take. There's the chances and how many chances that we'll get. And so there's just I don't know, just like our lives, like it's just so personalized and unique to our situations that no matter what happens, whether it's a great story or bad story, like each time we come better from it. Like that's the perspective that we have, I would say. I'll let you tap in, but I would say like we're almost thankful for whatever the chance that we have, and we just make the best of it.
Right. And I think the other big piece to recognize here is that I think now we're starting to see some different views on religion and connection with God. And growing up, we grew up in the Bible Belt, like in the South. And so,
Mm-hmm.
you live this life of fear of, hey, you either believe and you do everything that, your pastor and people at church tell you to do, or you're going to hell. And if you were to look at all of the things that have transpired in our lives, we don't deserve to go to heaven. And I think there is a group of us as millennials that sometimes feel that and have strayed away from the church. And we hope that kind of through our jokes and our stories and motivation that we can kind of help steer some folks back to cultivating a relationship with God and
Yep.
not necessarily getting stuck on the religious politics and just being in relationship, because that's so much more important. And to Wynn's point, unfortunately, if you're looking for us to kind of avoid that area and be atypical or like say, oh, we don't have an opinion. We do, and we'll share it, and it's our view and our opinion. But I think it's worthy of putting it out there because I feel like there's somebody else like me who for 27 years of their lives struggled with identity and relationship and made decisions out of what they felt fear was going to be from the church or from what the church has told me about God, and then waking up one day and saying, you know what, like, let me do my own research, or you know what, Lord, you brought me through all of this stuff, like, let's just keep rolling with it. And that's the other big piece to why we're launching this, because folks need to get into relationship with God and not just be out here worried about the religious aspect of it all.
Sure. Or you could be like me. I grew up in a background that wasn't really straightforward. I sometimes went to church. I really didn't know that much. Actually, when I met Lauren was around the time I really started a relationship with God, and it's like night and day of where it's been. It's been a 10, 11-year journey, but I didn't have a lot of background. And so around the time that I met Lauren, like I was hearing Bible stories for the first time, things that I had no idea about that just really blew me away. So whether you've had something drilled into you that this is the way that things are and they're not, or you have no idea what you're doing, I think there's something in this podcast for everyone to listen to and really learn to explore that relationship with God, because the beauty in him is that he'll meet you right where you are. So right where you are right now, you're listening to our podcast, but like, God is with you all the time. So, let's just go on this journey together, explore a little bit, and just kind of dive and dig deep.
Yeah, so we are just here to make you laugh, share our story, encourage you guys, and connect with folks just like us. So be sure to subscribe, check in, tell your friends about us, and we'll catch you next week on Watch the Podcast.